Sous vide, without a doubt in my mind, the best way to cook a frozen steak. And I've got a couple of steaks here we're going to do the test with. These are both ribeyes that I had cut from the same loin to the same thickness. I vacuum sealed one and put it in the freezer 2 days ago, and I vacuum sealed this one and put it in my refrigerator. Now, I've got a couple of devices that I do sous vide here with, and I've done this same experiment, or not experiment, but I've cooked from frozen with this Anova stick device, and it works just as good. But we're going to use the Instant Pot DUO EVO Plus, and that's just because I think you need to know, especially if you've got an Instant Pot, this particular device right here, which I'll explain in just a minute, it works real well. I think you're fixing to see that, and I think you'll agree it is the best way to cook a frozen steak. I'm John Sanders, also known as Jelly 007. Let's sous vide these two steaks. Okay, so here is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to set the Instant Pot up to 133 degrees, and that's because I have noticed that it runs 1 to 2 degrees cooler than I get with my Thermopan, which is not a big deal, but so I'm looking for, in other words, I'm looking for 131 degrees for my steak, and that's what I cook them at a lot of times, and it works great for me. But this is cold tap water filled just shy, or about a half a quart below the max fill line. So what I'll do, I'm going to put this frozen steak in at this point in that cold water, and then we'll set this up. I'm going to set this up for 133, and we're going to let it get all the way to where this is limber and thawed out. And once I feel like it's around this same temp, which is only 40, it came out of my refrigerator, so it's 40 degrees. So, you know, roughly. So then once this gets limber, similar to that right there, I'm going to drop that steak in. So let's get that started. I'm going to hit sous vide. Let's see if you can make sure you can see. I'm going to, it's flashing custom right here. Press that button. I'm going to take it to 133. I'm going to hit start, and I'm going to put my frozen steak in right now. And like I said, we're going to watch it. In fact, you know what? Let's see how long that takes. I'll hit a timer. There, I got a timer running. And we'll see how long it takes for that to get limber. And when it does, we're going to put the other one in. Okay, so right quick, I wanted to say I've never done this side-by-side test, being a frozen steak cooked in a sous vide versus a steak that had never been frozen cooked sous vide. So we're learning together. But now I do have a video of the day I brought both of these home, so you can kind of see what they look like in the package and when I vacuum sealed them. So hold on for that. All right, here's what we're working with. I went to Ingles today, had them cut 2 steaks from the same loin, side by side, 1.25 inches thick, and they are some pretty steaks. You can see they're not cheap. I mean, they were not on sale for one thing, but that's kind of what this is about anyhow. You buy a whole loin, way cheaper than that. You cut it up yourself, vacuum seal them, and freeze them, and we're going to see how much it matters, of course. Because this one right here, I'm not going to freeze. I'm just going in the refrigerator after I vacuum seal it, and this one's going in the freezer. So in a day or two, when that gets good and solid, we're going to do our test. All right, for the record, that's how they look after they were unwrapped. All I ever do is take them straight out of here and straight to the vacuum sealer. I don't season them or anything. And that is all there is to it. And not only does this help save or preserve the steak, but anything you put in here will last a lot longer in these vacuum seal bags than they will in a Ziploc. And not to mention what we're about to do, which is cook this one right here from frozen. So, see y'all in a day or two. All right, so I cleared my timer by accident. But bottom line is, we're right at 40 minutes. And here's what this steak looks like. It is completely thawed. In fact, it is probably right at the same temp and that this one is. It might be a little warmer, quite honestly. In fact, I think it is. But we're going to put this one in and this one in right now. And we're still not anywhere near the 133. So we're going to let them cook. And I have them marked, by the way. And I probably should have showed that a little earlier. Let me do that right now. This one right here is marked R for refrigerator, and the one that was frozen is marked F for freezer. So I've got them marked, so I know which ones are which. Okay, so that took right at 30 minutes past the time the other one was thawed. So we're going to let that go for at least 2 hours. I may let it go 3, not in a hurry, and it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. You can leave them in sous vide as long as you want. I mean, up to, say, around 4 hours. So when that's done, and I decide to pull them out, we're going to sear them and see how they are. Be back. Okay, this is my searing setup. Although, if you watch the video where I did a sous vide on an Instant Pot sous vide ribeye, you'll see I seared it in the bottom of an Instant Pot. So that means you can do it. And it works decent. You can see that. But I always, and have for a long time, seared over a gas-fired burner, cast iron skillet, just one around 425, maybe 450 degrees. So now the other thing I'll say right quick is, if you watch my videos, I usually use avocado oil on a lot of the things I do. And that's because it does 500 degrees, and I love the flavor of avocado oil. But I'm not going to get into all of that. I will say, if you use, say, olive oil or a lot of other oils, they smoke at way under 500. Not only do they smoke, but once they smoke, a lot of times they're burnt. And once it burns that oil, it leaves a flavor. So, and then the last thing is tonight, and a lot of times, I'm using this right here. I'm going to use bacon. I mean, those steaks like an hour, hour and a half. All right, so right quick, I only cooked about half of that pack of bacon, and you can see the plenty of the bacon fat I got. And I ain't got to tell you what an appetizer that's going to make. So we're going to get that out of there and get ready to, when those steaks, in fact, I'll leave this sitting out here. It can cool down. It doesn't matter. All I'm going to do is heat it back up and drop those steaks in, but that makes a good appetizer. Okay, so we're right at 2 hours and 10 minutes into a 3-hour cook. And we're going to see what the temps are. And they are 131, 132. So that is very close to what I have the temp set at of 133. So we're 1 degree low at best. And we got 50 more minutes, and we're going to pull these out and sear them in that bacon fat. Be back. All right, we're coming up on the end of the 3-hour cook. So let's make sure our temps are still good. And they are 131. Moving around a little bit. 132, 131, 132. I am good with that. So that's 3 hours of pretty much 132 degree water. We're going to take them out. And I know if you've watched sous vide before, you know they are a little grayish looking, not the best looking things on the planet. Whoops. When they first come out, but that's what we're fixing to, that's what we're about to fix with that bacon fat out there. So here's, like I said, I got them marked. So there's my refrigerator steak, and here is my freezer steak. So I'm going to do refrigerator on the right, freezer on the left. So we'll turn that off. Start the drying process. Do the refrigerated steak first. Open that one up. And take this one out. And it's almost trying to fall apart. And that's because that's what they do. And we've got to dry it. So I'm going to pretty much wrap it up in this paper towel. And keep it on the right hand side. Right there. Same thing with the freezer steak. And I'm probably in front of the camera. Oh, I was in it worse than I thought. But you get the drift. I'm just trying to let you see that I'm doing well, like I said, there's what you get. I mean, I'm not, this is how they look. They're not the prettiest things. They never are. And if you've ever sous vide or watched sous vide before, you already know this, but I'm going to get this one wrapped up also where it can dry. And then we're going to put a little bit of salt before, I'm going to put some salt on them before I drop them in the skillet or as I drop them in the skillet, because that's all I ever do to them. And that is at skillet time. I don't put any pepper or anything else. I just put a little bit of salt on them before I put them in the skillet. So I'm going to get the skillet hot and I'll be back when when I'm ready to do that. Here is the freezer steak. We're going to put it like this right here and get it all the way ready. And here is the refrigerator steak. Do the same thing right here. And I've already heated the skillet to somewhat. In fact, we'll drop a little salt. And I know I'm messing up that camera, but we'll drop a little salt on this side that's going down. Because I'm going to try and do them at the same time in this same skillet at the same time, which is a little tricky. I would normally do one steak at a time, but this being my test, I'm going to try and do that. Let's see what we got right quick. We got 359, so it's not quite hot enough. I took it off the heat for a minute. So we're going to let it get back to around 425 or 450. All right, I'm at 450. In fact, 500 in a couple places, but plenty hot. My point is, so I'm going to put, here goes the freezer steak, and here goes the refrigerator steak. There we go with the freezer steak, and here we come with the refrigerator steak, and we are done. So, get that over here, turn that off, and we're fixing to cut those up and see how they look. So I will see y'all inside. All right, right there they are, fresh off of the skillet. And I want to show you, of course you know, that's the refrigerator one. It kind of opened up, but that's just because that's what sous vide does. Here is the one that was in the freezer. I ain't got to tell you, it looks great already. And let's just cut them right down the middle. We'll cut this one right here. Make sure everything can be seen like I want it to be. And there you go. And that is nothing wrong with. We'll do the same thing right here. We'll cut this one right here. And absolutely nothing wrong with that either. I mean, both of them look fantastic. And again, I've never done the test myself. I've never side by side have done a test where there's a frozen steak that's been thawed, but I have done it many times. I've done a thawed steak in a sous vide. I've put a frozen steak in a sous vide and done it. I've cooked it from frozen, and I never thought I could tell any difference. Well, I've never done it side by side like this, and I honestly do not believe there is any difference. My point is, you can buy steak a whole lot cheaper by, bulk or the whole loin. A lot of times for $6, $7 a pound, and versus $12 or $13 a pound. Well, when you do that, you can cut them up to whatever size you want, vacuum seal them, and cook them in your sous vide and have what I think is, I just ate the freezer steak. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm going to eat this piece too, although it's kind of tricky to talk while I chew all this up. My point, there's not any difference. There's not. I promise you, you could not take that steak or that steak and tell me any difference. I could swap those if you were eating with me, and you could not tell the difference. I promise you'll feel the same way. I'm going to eat it. Now I got 2 pieces of steak in my mouth. But anyhow, they're really good. Sous vide, the way to go. Frozen steak, save some money. You'll not know the difference, and neither will your guest. Hey, I love y'all all. I don't think I can get in this frame. I'm going to try. I had the camera lowered down, but I'm going to try. I love y'all all. Come back to see me. do some sous vide on some frozen steak and trick your guest if you want to, but you'll save some money. Have a good night. Bye-bye.